I know there's a way.
All right. So I used to sell people for a living. My first job out of college. Who can guess what that job was?
Marketing.
Recruiter.
HR. That's similar, close, huh?
HR. Recruiter.
HR, close. Oh man, really?
What? I heard.
Nobody has ever, nice job. I was a political campaign manager. And the reason I tell that story, seriously, I have never had anyone guess politics. So she gets the extra points. And the reason I tell you that is that I managed, through my 8 years in politics, some of the absolute worst speakers on the face of the planet. And it was my job to try to make them look good. And that was probably next to impossible. Ouch. The reason I tell you that is because when you start feeling nervous and anxiety-stricken, when you have to present at work, or you have to present out in public, or whatever you might be doing with your career, don't worry, because these men managed to get themselves reelected over and over and over and over again. And so you really don't have to worry if guys who are running this country can get forward in their careers without being able to speak a lick and to persuade anyone. You all are all going to do just fine. All right?
Former president?
No, I actually did work for a former president in 1992 in Michigan, and that was a lot of fun. I can tell you that story later. But no, these were Senate and congressional candidates, so, and state level candidates.
So sad that they're there.
All right. All right. So our objectives for this evening are to turn you into Martin Luther King Jr.
I prefer Malcolm X.
All right, whatever you like. We're going to discuss what makes a good speaker. We're going to discuss your delivery strengths and weaknesses and things you can work on. And I want you to be thinking about, what your experiences have been presenting to a couple of people, one person, 20 people, or 100 people, and the things that have bothered you. And if you want to bring them up at any time, you're welcome to. I really don't mind if you have a question during the process, or you have something you want to personally relate to the rest of us, or something you've learned. Please relate it, because I can tell you that I have not and will never know everything there is to know about presentation skills. We're going to try to learn how to control speaking anxiety, which is probably the #1 hindrance to any kind of semblance of competent public speaking. And I'm going to give you some presentation slide tips. But first, let's start with a little video so I don't have to speak as long, of someone that I consider to be a real master at presentation skills.
That changes everything. And Apple has been, well, first of all, one's very fortunate if you get to work on just one of these in your career. Apple's been very fortunate. It's been able to introduce a few of these into the world. In 1984, we introduced the Macintosh. It didn't just change Apple, it changed the whole computer industry. In 2001, we introduced the first iPod. And it didn't just change the way we all listen to music. It changed the entire music industry. Well, today, we're introducing 3 revolutionary products of this class. The first one is a widescreen iPod with touch controls. The second is a revolutionary mobile phone. And the third is a breakthrough internet communications device. So, 3 things. A widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communications device. An iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. An iPod, a phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device. And we are calling it iPhone. Today, Apple is going to reinvent the phone. And here it is. Actually, here it is, but we're going to leave it there for now.
So tell me what he did well in there. Things you noticed, things you thought about as he was delivering it, and his techniques for speaking to the audience.
Rhythm.
Rhythm is great, absolutely. And he's very paced, very slow. Yeah, absolutely.
The space?
Huh?
The space?
Using the space? Yeah, absolutely.
His gestures were amazing. How he was, emphasizing his points with his hands.
Yep.
Changed everything, and we did this and that.
Exactly.
He was using humor
Yeah,
to grab the
absolutely.
audience attention.
Absolutely, and keep them and make them want to know what's next, right? Anything else?
Repetition?
Huh?
Repetition.
Absolutely. Crucial, critical. Makes people think, get across the message, the entire marketing message for launching that product. Here's what I want everyone to think about over and over again. Anything else?
The slides, he was perfectly in sync. Like, it's always been the most interesting part about Steve Jobs' presentations. It's the way that he doesn't even look at what's behind him, and he's
That's like from
like,
hundreds of hours of rehearsal.
I know.
Every presentation he gave
He's always amazing.
over and over and over. Absolutely, absolutely. Another thing related to humor was self-deprecation, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But did anybody catch that at the beginning of it? When he said, sometimes you're fortunate in life to have a revolutionary product in your life, right? And you get one of those in your gig or your job. But I've been fortunate to have 3. Well, what is that really doing for him, right? It takes you off guard, makes you feel like he's a normal guy, very humble. And then at the same time saying, we kick ass. We have introduced 3 world-changing products in a row at this company, and we're about to do it again. So those are all things to think about. We'll get into more detail about that in a minute. All right? All right. So who can tell me what is a presentation? What is the purpose of a presentation?
To convey a message.
Communicate, message, what?
To a group.
To a group, okay. Anybody else?
Get a point across.
Get a point across. You're closest so far.
Sometimes to persuade.
Persuade is even closer.
Convince.
Convince, good, all good words. All those words equal the same thing, and I think what it sums up is every time you speak to a group of people, you're selling something. Okay? It can be an idea. It can be what you need to change because the numbers sucked last quarter. It can be a change in the way the company is going to function and operate. But if you're giving a presentation and you don't have a mission or a goal and want to sell something, then you're probably wasting your time and everybody else's. All right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of that. But the most important thing to remember is all the way through, everything you say, everything you put on a slide, everything you talk about, what is my goal? If the end goal is to get Department A to start working with Department C, how are you going to prove to Department A all the way through this proposal that that's in their best interest and that they will do better because of it? So what is your goal? And then build on top of that all the way through your presentation. And don't ever forget it. It's just like Steve Jobs repeating over and over again. Widescreen iPod, phone, revolutionary internet device. Same message over and over again, and every layer of your presentation builds on your end goal. Okay? Does that make sense? Everybody understand that? Great. All right, so that's kind of the fundamentals, and then we're going to get into effective openings and closings. In other words, how to start your presentation and how to end your presentations. So this is one of my favorite examples of an opening you shouldn't do.
So I'm really pleased to be here today to show you some of the new things we've built into the operating system for new services. And I'm really excited to see so many people here to talk about it, for me to talk to about it today. And one of the things I like about what I do is I get to play with great technology, and I really like that.
I really like that.
I mean, do I really have to ask what he did wrong there? I like
He works for
hearing it.
Microsoft.
Huh?
He works for Microsoft.
Yeah, what?
Monotony.
Monotony. Yeah, monotone in the voice. Definitely a problem here.
Body
Body language.
Hold his arms.
I'm really excited to teach you guys presentation skills.
No eye contact.
This is a real presentation, or is he a paid actor?
No, it's real.
Yeah?
It's a real deal.
Is he reading off of
This guy has
something?
been lambasted like in every presentation skills seminar in America. I actually feel, I start feeling sorry for him. I used to show more of it and I just can't take it. It was like he ran through the operating system and all the things they're working on in development. Now, he's pitching, that was one thing I forgot to say about Steve Jobs. It's really important is, something else he does really well is knows his audience, right? So he had an audience full of 99% fanboy Apple developers and 1% press, right? So what does he do? Rile up the troops, man. Get them fired up, screaming, yelling, excited. And what happens to the 1% of that press that's sitting there, right? They can't help but get excited. You know what I mean? I'm a geek at heart, and I get excited watching that iPhone presentation. So that's another.
Well, you even like Microsoft?
Illness on my part. Anyway, so what else? So body language, monotone voice delivery. I mean, how do you stand up there and say, I really excited and I get to play with the operator? I mean, it just hurts so much. It's really bad. So whenever you're about to give a presentation, remember this guy. And all you have to do is a little bit better than that, and you're going to be doing it beautiful. As a matter of fact, just show this before you start, and anything you do will be great. Critical, the first 90 seconds, right?
Yeah.
You got to suck people in. You've got to make them want to listen to you, and here's why. Because for the last 13 minutes, you've probably listened to me for about 2. Okay? And that's because your brains are going 100 miles per hour. You're thinking about everything you did today. You're thinking about what you're doing when you get the hell out of here tonight. You're thinking about what did he mean we have to give a presentation later. You know, our brains don't stop. Okay? And everybody that you're talking to and trying to persuade of something, it's the same thing. Their brains are going 100 miles per hour. They may look like the most attentive people in the world, but they're not listening to you. That's why you repeat things, and that's why you suck people in with stories, with all the other methodologies we're going to talk about tonight. Okay? You've got to hook people. You've got to bring them in. All right? So remember that getting them in that first 90 seconds is critical. One of the ways I like to do that is tell a story. Another way to do that is ask questions, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, went backwards. I just want to see him again. Keep him awake. Keep me awake. Yeah, that works. Keep your energy levels high, right? Don't be that guy, and make sure that you're enthusiastic about what you're talking about. If you're motivated and enthusiastic about what you're talking about, nobody else is going to be. So you've got to create that some level of excitement. Now, granted, you know, talking about the numbers from last quarter and running through sales figures is not the most exciting thing in the world. But you can find things within those numbers to either scare the hell out of people or motivate people because things are going well. And those are the kinds of emotional points that you want to keep people excited about, and you need to exude excitement when you're doing it, all right? The biggest thing you're afraid of when you try to keep excited is you're going to look like an idiot, right? The bottom line is this is your presentation. Nobody knows what to expect from you. Nobody knows what your goal is to get out of them. You're in the driver's seat. You're in command. Make them feel like you're in charge. And that's going to erase a lot of your anxiety, and it's going to make people actually listen to you more. Set the objectives and goals. Did I do that at the beginning? right? All right, set the objectives and goals. Let people know where you're headed. Let them know what you want to try to accomplish, okay? Don't go through every slide and every detail in your objectives and goals, just the high points. Manage first impressions. Now, you can manage first impressions and be over the top and crazy, or you can manage first impressions and really kind of catch people with something that you want to impress upon them, that you want to repeat throughout the presentation. You also, we'll talk a little bit this in a minute, but you also want to manage first impressions in your appearance. Now, scaring you all as you came in the door about having to speak probably wasn't the best way to manage first impressions, but just kind of want to have fun, and you guys have to listen to me anyway. Strong openings, we talked about that. Stories, I love stories. People love stories. If you tell somebody a story, they will listen to you even if they've already heard the story before. Tell them a story. Anything you're talking about, you can find a story. We have the internet. You can find a story about anything. And we'll talk about it in a little bit. You can use anecdotes. You can use anything that could be related to what you're talking about to suck people into it. Okay? Anyone that says, hello, my name is, at the beginning of their presentation tonight, will be asked to leave the room immediately. Okay? It's just, you can say your name later. Establish yourself, establish the story, hook me in, because I don't care who you are. Really. People don't care who you are. People care about what's in this for them, and are they wasting their time for the next hour of their life listening to you. I don't care what your name is. Maybe later I'll care what your name is if you motivate me and excite me, but I care about why I'm here and is this worth my time, okay? Body language. If you've ever been in a presentation skills class or any kind of public speaking class, they tell you, okay, no hands in pockets, don't overemphasize the hands, don't do the politician thing. Whatever it is, they worry about this constantly. I am probably the worst golfer in the world. The reason I blame on being the worst golfer in the world is that when I first tried to play golf in my 20s, I had 5 buddies all teach me how to play this game. And all of them had a different methodology of something I had to focus on, right? And so all the way through trying to play golf, I'm trying to think through the 500 things that these guys told me were the most important thing instead of just hitting the damn ball. Right? So I never wanted to go back to golf because I turned this experience into this frustrating mental insanity, and I never liked the game. Same thing with body language. If you spend your time presenting to people worried about what your hands are doing, what your legs are doing, and are you pacing too much, and you're not focusing on the message and what you're trying to get across, then you're going to look like an idiot, you're going to have a lot of anxiety, and nobody's going to pay attention to you. Forget about trying to focus on body language. If you want to get more polished and more professional later on, that's fine. Right now, just focus on the message and the topic and the goal and what you want people to do, and I promise you the body language will come more naturally. Focus on making it conversational. Don't worry about this right now. And strike a conversational tone, right? Try to think of and help yourself relax by thinking about this as a conversation with your friends. Now, everyone in the room may want to cut your head off and be your enemy and want your job or not want you to succeed. But if you try to treat this as an opportunity to have a conversation about something you care about or you think is important to the company or you think will make a difference, and you make it about them and what their needs are, then, and you treat it like you're talking to your best friend, people are going to be more likely to listen to what you have to say. Okay? I'm going at a fast pace here. Is everybody all right? Okay. Types of openings. So, anybody know who Tom Hopkins is? He's a big sales business guru. And I like this quote a lot. The sale is a transfer of enthusiasm. So if every presentation is a sale, then every presentation is a transfer of enthusiasm. Your mission is to get people excited about what you want to accomplish. Okay? And this is probably one of the most enthusiastic openings to a presentation you will ever see. So start.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Ballmer!
The guy's stressing me out.
Who said so? I have 4 words for you.
Asthma attack.
Love this company. Yeah!
That's 5 words.
So this man is the CEO
He needs an inhaler.
of one of the largest companies in the world, right? Accountable to stock, accountable to financial markets, accountable to a board of directors.
He is hot.
I mean, would you ever even think about it?
Did he have a stroke after that?
Yeah, should have. But so let's talk about why he thought he could get away with that.
Because his product sucks.
I don't know.
Not to him.
He was a CEO.
Anybody have any ideas?
Wasn't the previous bad speaker from the same company, Microsoft?
Same company.
So he was trying to.
He was trying to improve on what that guy did? Yeah. Yeah. No? Any other ideas?
Why he thought he could get away with what he just did?
Yeah, why he did it? How did the crowd respond?
They
Because
loved
of
it.
his
Make
position.
people laugh.
Right. So who do you think was in that crowd?
Everyone free company.
Please.
Employees and developers that make every penny they make off of every decision he makes. Right? So what does he want? He wants, and they're all a bunch of geeks. Okay? Right? So we geeks, we don't mind guys going a little crazy, a little nuts. All right?
Yeah,
He knows that.
It's that extreme.
But he doesn't care because he knows his audience. This is key. He knows what his audience will accept. He knows what his audience will get excited about. And he knows that his company is in free fall, and he damn well better excite his developers and make them believe that he's gung-ho enthusiastic about what's happening with this company. Right? So he can go over the top. Right? And when you look at their financials until the last year, he can get away with it. Right? The stock market knows. Developers are the bread and butter of their company, permeating every company in America by developing custom systems using their products means he's locked in. So the more he excites developers, the more money he makes. The moral of the story is know your audience, right? Know what they want to hear, know what they think they should hear, know what they expect of you, and do something a little different, but know what you are supposed to be doing and what their expectations are and what they want, okay?
How far into his presentation did he take the,
I think he chilled out a little bit after that.
Okay.
But he's always been known as pretty crazy. If you do a search on Balmer crazy on YouTube, I mean, this is not an unusual thing for him. All right? So, a great way to start is to ask a question. What question did I ask at the beginning of this presentation?
What do you do for a living?
Yeah. What did I do for a living? Yeah, correct. Right? Ask a question. I asked a question that's usually really difficult to answer. And what happens is it goes around, I have everybody throwing out ideas, and now what? What's happening?
Interaction.
Everybody's participating, right? Now you're part of my presentation, at least for that moment. I've got you listening, and I'm listening to you, okay? Kissing frogs, right? There's always a fairy tale you can relate to a situation in business. All right, make it funny, make it humorous, bring it in and tie it together. Make fun of somebody that's not in the room. There's always an opportunity for tying something familiar in people's heads into the point you want to get across. I mean, that's the whole idea, right? The moral of fairy tales was to teach you a lesson for something that was a story that you would remember as a child so you could apply it in your life. The idea in the reverse here is tell a story that you can relate to, whether it's a fairy tale or any other story. Tell a story that people can relate to make your point and emphasize what you're going to talk about to suck them into what you're going to talk about. Okay? Make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. Visual, right? Videos, photos. You've got the ability to do that now. All right? You have multimedia in almost every company in the world, nonprofit, everywhere else. If you don't, you can bring a cheap projector and a set of speakers and do it yourself. So take advantage of that and use visual things to capture people's attention. Okay? Current event, you know, third quarter's numbers were like, you know, Hurricane Joe coming up the coast. I mean, you can use any kind of thing. Mitt Romney's slide in the last month of the campaign. Whatever you want to use, you can tie into a current event and people have it in their heads. Miley Cyrus. Whatever you want.
God, no.
All right? You can bring it in and tie it in because people already have an idea. So that starts the thought processes going, but their thought processes are going where you want them to go. Right? So they're imagining what you're talking about and then you're tying it into what you want to talk about throughout the whole presentation. Any questions on openings? That's our last slide on openings. Any other ideas, things you've used before? How many people have given presentations or public speaking? Oh, that's a good group. Well, maybe I should. Everybody in the room? Nice. Excellent. So why am I here?
We're not very good at it.
You have to go first. Fine-tune our skills.
Yeah, speak for yourself, John Scott.
So delivery strengths and weaknesses, and speaking of Miley.
Aww.
Building an image.
So the idea is building an image, right? Whatever you want to say about her, she keeps herself in the press, right? So she builds an image for herself. Try to build an image